live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Clockwork Game Dev Show. It's been a little while. I think I did not do a show last week. I'll ping my peeps. All right. We've already done one episode on Emergence a couple months ago, I think. That's up on the YouTube page for sure. But we had another big conversation about advertisements. Right, I always forget that Twitch makes free money off of my labor. And I don't make any money off my labor. Oops. Economic systems. But so we did a conversation about Emergent Complexity about a month or so ago, but we've been having a lot of conversations about it in the Discord. I do think it's a complicated topic that's hard to really break down in a meaningful way. I would love to write like a real serious article about it, but that has just not been in my my time portfolio recently. Been really just working on Gem Wizard's tactics a lot. In fact, here I'll show you a little preview image here. Get this going. You might know the Splash Master from Gem Wizard's Tactics. Well, I drew another picture of the Splash Master. Pretty happy how it came out. So this is the Splash Master sprite. It's kind of hard to see there. Unfortunately, you can't. I don't think you can zoom in. Oh, you can. All right. Well, it blurs it, but still, you can kind of see. And then the other thing I want to show you is what I drew today, which is the portrait image for the Splash Master. I'm very proud of this. I think this might be the coolest image so far to exist in Gem Wizard's Tactics. I'm not sure that there's a cooler drawing in a turn-based tactics game, but I guess we'll see. So anyway, that's the Splash Master. So with that said, today I'm bringing on Tribound, aka Cyra, who you may know from the Discord. We've been chatting a bit about complexity. Cyra is a game developer and a very smart person. So we're gonna have her on momentarily. Just pinging to see if she's available. She is. Let's do this. All right. Starting the voice call. Hello, Cyra. Are you there?
Hi.
Hello.
So we're live.
You're live. You're on the. You're basically famous now at this point. I mean.
Well, thank you. So we're here to discuss like complexity, depth, and emergence.
Yes.
So the first thing I have to say about this topic is that, like, in game design, a lot of terms, basically every game design term, has two parallel definitions and parallel meanings that aren't the same, but are used in two different domains. Usually we have a formalist and systemic definition, which is like what it means in the context of like systemic design and like the math, the numbers behind the game. And usually we also have a cognitive definition that matters on the player experience side. So like, for example, we have complexity. The formalist definition would be something like the amounts of rules that a game has, right? But we also have like a cognitive definition, which is how much mental load is on the player. Likewise, we also have like the same like parallel dual definition for depth. On the formalist side, we have the amount of unique game states that a game can provide, a game system. And on the cognitive side, we have the variety of unique experiences that a player can experience, right? And um, and both of these, of course, like matter for us at all times. But usually, the systemic definitions are only useful when designing a game. They're not useful in an ad hoc kind of way.
Hmm. You
Um,
mean for a
if it makes
player?
any sense. Yeah, like the player doesn't really care about the number of rules. They just care about like how what the rules are doing to me, the
Sure.
player. Like, yeah, or they don't care about like how many game states theoretically could exist in the system. They just care about, okay, what is the depth of the game? What's the strategy space?
Hmm.
What kind of interactions can I play with? Like, that's what they care about. And we as designers have to be wary of both of these competing sides. I mean, they're not really competing,
Hmm.
but they're correlated for sure. Like when you increase the amount of rules, you're also going to increase the cognitive load on the player, the mental load on the player. When you increase the amounts of unique game states, you're probably also going to be increasing the variety of unique experiences as well.
Right. There's a
um,
relationship there for sure.
yeah. So the correlation like definitely exists. We know that.
Hmm.
Um, and we should, even though we're operating on the formalist definitions, we should always be aiming to optimize the player definitions, basically.
Yeah, it's
That's
like the ultimate thing that a game designer is trying to do is create an experience for a player, and
exactly.
so right, yeah, I agree with that.
And so the other um, definition, big word we have in this discussion is emergence, right?
Yeah.
And emergence is basically just um, higher level behaviors and properties being caused from lower level properties and components. And that's the formalist definition. And I think this might be the unique one because the formalist definition definitely matters a lot more
Can you say
than the
that?
player.
Can you say that definition for me one more time?
Yeah, I'd say that it's the phenomenon of higher level behaviors and properties emerging or being caused from lower level properties and
Okay.
components, basically.
Can you give me examples of higher level or lower level? Like what is that referring to?
Yeah, like the easy go-to example of philosophy is like cells being um, well, uh, let's go even like lower. Like molecules being formed from atoms, like molecules are they're an emergent component. And then molecules combine together and they create like complex proteins, and the proteins combine and they create cells, and the cells combine and they create tissues. Like every time we're going up a layer, we're reaching a new level of emergence, right?
Okay.
And this keeps on like going on until like you get neurobiology, and then from there you go to like psychology, and from psychology you go to like sociology, and wow, suddenly we have big
Hmm.
societies of people interacting all the way, and it all emerged from the like atoms interacting in the first place. Like, okay, that's real life, which is obviously very emergent and very complex. But in the context of the game, we also have like let's say roles in a MOBA like League or Dota.
Hmm.
Nobody, there is no, okay, well, in League, they formalize it later on, but even in League, you're not penalized or rewarded directly by going to the top lane or the bottom lane or the jungle, etc. But that formation of one uh, player top, one middle, one jungle, and two in the bottom, like that's emerged from the basic rules of the game. Like
Hmm.
even though like yeah, Riot formalized it in their UI,
Hmm.
it that strategic like formation does not exist in the systemic rules of the game. There is no rule that says, okay, there is a top lane position. No, the top lane has emerged from the rules of the game.
Sure.
So
Or like chess
that's
openings might be another example of that, maybe.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that could be it. That's a perfectly other example as well. And so that as I was getting to like emergence, we have like most game design terms, we have dual parallel meaning. The formalist definition was that high level properties coming from lower level properties. On the player and cognitive side, it's basically just strategic analysis, and basically the entire concept of strategy is emergence for the player. Like strategies do not exist in what is it, in the systemic rules of the game. Strategies are completely things that the player learns, the player creates out of the rules of the game. And in that way, we can say that basically strategy and emergence are kind of the same thing, but really not really, because there are other emergent things that aren't strategy as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we had like another term, emergent complexity, which is basically just new interactions emerging from the basic rules of the game.
So
I
you
guess
agree
that's
with my take that emergent complexity as a phrase and emergence
mhm,
are basically
yeah.
synonyms?
In the context of game design, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, at the very least, we can say that's what we care about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know what else do we care about in game design uh, from emergence. Like, we just care about like the new interactions, basically.
Right.
The
Okay.
the depth that's created from emergence, basically, yeah. In another sense of the word.
Okay. Did you have
I
more,
mean,
or should I? Because I have a bunch of
I
questions and
mean,
stuff too.
yeah. I want to just add before ending this part is that, like, as you just said, like, do you think emergence and emergent complexity are the same thing? I want to just add that we don't need super specific definitions in the first place. Like, we just need to understand each other's languages, and like that's how communication works. Sometimes we don't have exact definitions. We don't
Absolutely.
know exactly what like sci-fi means. When you say if you're like riding a bus and I come next to you and I'm like reading a sci-fi novel and you ask, what are you reading? And I say, it's a sci-fi novel. You'll go like, so like Star Trek? And I'll say, yeah, it's like Star Trek. You
Mm.
know, there is no, we don't need like exact definitions. We need to be able to communicate. And sometimes we need more granular communication, but oftentimes we don't need to be 100% precise, obviously.
Well, and also a lot of that precision can happen in the context of a conversation. So, like, we can prescribe, we can be like, so, like, in that sci fi example, we could be like, oh, I'm looking for a sci fi thing. And the person's like, oh, okay, here, you want Star Wars? And they're like, oh, no, I don't want like that. I want like something else. And they start basically explaining to you a prescriptive definition for sci fi that's going to exist just for this conversation. And I think that we
Oh,
actually constantly
exactly.
do that all the time. Like that's what conversation is because words are just these like really coarse, kind of shitty tools that we use to communicate information, and so we have to. So like that's something that bugs me about a lot of times. Like in big discussions, is people will complain about definition monstering and like fighting about definitions, and it's like when we're fighting about definitions, actually we're fighting about meaning. We're trying to understand each other, and that's why we're fighting about definitions, not just for its own sake. No one cares what the
It shouldn't.
true
It should
definition
never
is.
be for its own sake. Yeah, we
Yeah.
should. The utility. I mean, language is just a utilitarian tool. At the end of the day, we're just supposed to. It serves a purpose, and that purpose is communication, basically.
Yeah.
uh, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So my main question, I don't know if you had more stuff written down that you wanted to talk about before start asking you questions.
Okay. Yeah. I actually have like a few other things.
Sure.
So I'd say like the number one reason we care about emergence is because it's highly important as a it's basically our primary tool to generate depth without increasing the complexity.
Right.
That's why we care about it. That's why we say good game design involves a lot of emergence. It's about
Right.
creating that. If you can't create emergence, you're basically like failing at the system design level of the game design.
Right.
And you can see this in like good games and bad games. Good games have a lot of emergence. Bad games basically have no emergence or very little emergence. And so we know that emergence is really important, but we should also take in mind that we should never design emergence itself directly, but we should design for emergence. And that sounds a bit paradoxical, but if we are directly trying to design emergence itself, what we're doing is we're actually destroying potential emergence, because emergence by definition is something that's supposed to be created out of like the interactions of the smaller rules. We're not supposed to be forcing that down. If we do, we either crunch the play space, we basically solve the play space by saying like, okay, these interactions are always superior, these like emergent interactions. Therefore, we are like, redlining all the other interactions as unviable. And so like that's a really important distinction we should always have in mind about designing for emergence or designing emergence itself. Because if someone is trying to do the latter, they're just going about it the wrong way. And my problem with like CCGs specifically is that they really go hard on trying to design emergence and synergies directly into the game, and paradoxically you end up with the least amount of emergence.
Right. That's an interesting point, and I definitely want to talk more about that. I want to talk more with CCGs about you because I know that you have a background in that. And
Yeah, I have I have actually published, designed, and published one. We got a lot of players in the end as well, 140,000.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So okay, so let me ask you some questions now.
Yeah.
So yeah, one thing I just wanted to throw in there real quick was because you said it's the primary tool to generate depth without increasing the complexity. I would add like the inherent complexity, right? Because like there's and that's another one of these things that we kind of get caught up on in these conversations is like, what's complexity? Is complexity only the rules that are prescribed? But also you mentioned like, well, complexity is also like, I think emergent complexity is a type of complexity, of course. So we do want to increase that, but we don't want to increase the other kind of complexity, and that's why I use the term inherent complexity for the base rules of the game that people need to be able to play the game.
All right, so that's a pretty useful distinction between like the different kinds of complexity. But if we're going to use complexity as like the way I defined it, I said it's the amount of rules. The amount of rules, as you are saying, is inherent complexity.
Right.
Or on the player side, it's the mental load on the player. Again, this is something pretty straightforward. We do not want mental load we want to basically always lower the mental player, unless you are specifically trying to design a torture device that
yeah
annoys someone. Yeah.
So this mental load thing, to me, my sense is that that's like partially on its own axis almost, because there's so many things you can do that have nothing to do with necessarily the amount of complexity to
the user experience design, the UI
yeah
design,
yeah
these
yeah,
all
yeah.
help with,
affordances.
yeah, these kind of things definitely that are distinct from the core systemic design of the game, the rules. These things can reduce the complexity. This is why I said we need to be cognizant and aware of like both of these parallel definitions. Even if, as you said, like, yeah, they probably even exist on like different axes, and we can refer to like one of them as you said, say the inherent complexity, and the other as like the cognitive complexity.
Right.
We could make those distinctions, and they probably would be useful.
So actually, here's an interesting comment from Reshiv. Reshiv says, "Can't emergent complexity or depth from emergence also increase the mental load?"
Yeah, that's certainly possible. Like when you are when emergence occurs, now you have to, as we said, new phenomenon is being created from like lower level phenomenon.
Right.
Beyond the basic rules, you now have to also consider the interactions of these rules too. You have to consider like, okay, I'm playing chess. I know what each piece does, but like I also have to consider like what my opponent is going to do 5 moves from now, and that effectively makes chess a highly complex in the mental load definition of the word type of game. And I think that's one of the reasons why chess is kind of a bad game, because it's it basically has too much cognitive complexity, even though, yeah, emergent complexity is has created a lot of mental load beyond just the basic rules of the game.
Yeah, games like chess and Go, most ancient abstracts have this thing of they do have, emerging situations because of the interactions of the pieces and things like that. And it becomes for many players, not all players, obviously, but for a lot of players, it does feel like a large mental load. And you can, I think a lot of times, like chess proponents will say, well, you just got to keep playing and playing and playing until you have basically learned to like wrangle this beast of mental load. And I think probably you and I both would agree that a part of game design is trying to make something that players don't have to like wrangle like this wild animal, that it kind
Yeah,
of,
exactly.
it's like it goes smoothly. The process of learning it is smoothly happens,
Hmm.
and because we have the power to do that, we have the power to design games like that. Chess and Go even more so. Kind of like it
It
almost
was
was like a folk emergent, like emerged out of folk culture.
millennia ago,
Yeah,
basically both of them.
yeah, literally.
Yeah.
And so, but now we have the chance to make new games, and we have the chance. Like, why would anyone choose to not make something that kind of goes down smoothly and that players don't have to go get over this like really tremendous hurdle in order to get at the kind of play that we all are sort of looking for on some level.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Obviously, like it's our duty as game designers to onboard the player as smoothly as possible without the mental load ever. Actually, I'd say that we don't want the mental load to like even increase. We want it to just start slow, and as the player learns, because in the process of learning, you basically internalize a lot of um, those like emergent complexity and rules, and now you have a lower cognitive load, right?
Yeah.
So when a new player enters, like plays, I don't know, League for the first time, they see like 100 and whatever characters. There's no way they could. The cognitive load is so much that most people get turned off right
Yeah.
at their first game. Like they don't make it to their second game. um, in fact, I'd wager that that's the majority of players of all time who've ever played League have only played one game.
Hmm.
Um, and but if but a player who's played League for like I don't know 2 years, they know all of the heroes. They've internalized it, and when they've done that, okay, then their mental load is being focused on the strategic components of the game. Now they're not thinking about, okay, what is my opponent's abilities going to do? They're thinking about, okay, should we be taking dragon now or like 2 minutes later?
Right.
Should we be ganking mid, or should we like push top? Things like that. And that's the kind of mental load we do want for the player. It's a lot more manageable and it's a lot more fun as well because now you're going into the depth of the game instead of the surface level rules.
So a big question I have is, something we haven't talked about yet, which is, my concept of the information horizon, or just generally hidden information in games.
Right.
And what role do you think? Because to me, that is like the crucial element that is the difference between that's like probably our most effective tool for fighting that like mental load sort of thing. But I think there's also some complexity to it. It's a little bit hard to know how to implement it. And I don't know, what do you think about like that information horizon or the hidden information and its relationship to this like mental load concept?
Definitely, like the more the information horizon is closer to the player, obviously they're gonna have a lower mental load when you like give them all of the info of the game. And this exists even on a meta level as well. So even if we go right back to that league example, um, the player's info horizon concerning the rules of the game at the beginning is all of the heroes, all of the rules, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're gonna be in contact with all of that. Obviously, in the context of a single game as well or a single match, you also have that info horizon helping you um, border away a lot of the load. So, okay, dear player, please don't think about these other things. Just think about the things in front of you.
Yeah.
Um, that could help for sure, but I wouldn't say I'm not sure if it's the primary tool to lower the cognitive load. I think um, I think the best way is, I mean, obviously UI is super huge, really important. But I'm not really sure if the Info Horizon is necessarily our best tool to combat that cognitive load.
So let me just lay out the way I think about all this for you, and if you hear anything that you disagree with,
Hmm.
we can talk about that. But like the way I actually, so you talked about in the beginning these two definitions, this formalist or systemic definition, and when I'm designing a game, I tend to like kind of live in that. I sort of bounce back and forth, I guess, between those two things. So like when I'm in design mode, you could say I'm being formalist and systemic and stuff, and I'm a human being, so I can't help but like think, well, how would this play out at any stage? I'm kind of like imagining myself playing it or someone playing it, and how it feels to play and all that sort of stuff. So you never fully enter into one sphere or another. But I tend to think of things as like, okay, what are my rules? And then how will those rules sort of combine? How am I doing, as you said, designing for emergence? Like what
Hmm.
sort of things am I setting up that would create emergent complexity potential? And then
Hmm.
like to me I think we've agreed that UI design, and also things like theme and setting affordances are crucial in helping lower that mental load and make things go down smooth. In fact, I think that's
Absolutely.
a massive part of game design. Is
I wouldn't
just
say theme is particularly like that useful. I think UI is definitely a lot more crucial than theming on its own. I think
well to
theme
me.
can help. I mean, all games have a theme, like
Mhm.
in practice at least. So we're not gonna get a lot more out of that by leaning heavier into theme. Sometimes you can even end up with like, let's go for more realism, and end up with even more complexity. Something that like the grand strategy, the Paradox Interactive games do, or the Company of Hero strategy games in like those real time tactics games do. They lean heavily into the theme, trying to afford them more complexity. And sure, it does that to some extent, but not as much as we'd hope for as designers,
Well,
basically.
you're talking about leaning into the theme more or less, whereas I'm talking about which theme, right? Because like the theme that you choose, regardless of like it's sort of a separate axis of how much you lean into that theme, but the theme that you choose, I think like has a tremendous effect on the player, psychologically in terms of like cueing them as to what kinds of things they should be doing, what should they be valuing, like what's the story, what's the narrative here, even if it's like a really systemic game, there's still some kind of like narrative of like, oh, okay, I'm like building up a farm, or I'm like, a warrior on a battlefield, or I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, so having that setting like drives the play.
I can definitely see that. So if your theme is punishing, you can probably get more difficulty into like your game design as well. If your theme is a bit more like cutesy,
Mhm.
you probably shouldn't be designing a very punishing game. But yeah, so if the theme involves combat, yeah, the player is gonna intuitively know that okay, things hit other things,
Sure.
things will die, actor removal exists. They're gonna basically understand a lot of rules from the get-go. I agree that yeah, choosing your theme is probably yeah, it plays a role too.
Reshiv in the chat says, oh, by the way, hi, Steven. Reshiv says, the info horizon decreases the effective mental load by increasing the amount of possible calculation so much that the player basically gives up on calculation. So the example here would be Fog of War, where you can probabilistically sort of make a bunch of guesses as to where they could be, but there's so many of those ideally that the player is like, I'm not gonna like do some odds thing. I'm just gonna like kind of play, and that's kind
Right.
of that's how that tends to work. I agree with Reshiv. Reshiv also says so. How the information affects the mental load depends on the player's willingness to give up on doing probability calculations. And I will say that there is a type of player for whom
Who will do that?
who will do that, and
Yeah,
I,
there's always going to be that player.
for sure,
You can't
and
design for everyone.
that's true.
There are people play poker who know every probability of winning every single time. Like they'll give you exact numbers, basically.
Yeah.
And in fact, uh, really high tier players in some roguelikes, for example, in Slay the Spire, they actually try to go down that probability calculation route. And I personally think like that's not who we should be designing for. That's basically your outlier. You
Mhm.
shouldn't be designing for your outliers.
Yeah, and I mean, well, also on another way to put it is like, let's we don't. I don't exactly know how many of those players there are. I would probably agree with you that they tend to be not the majority, but the bigger point is that we're designing games a lot of times like the games that we want to see in the world. Like kind of a lot of times the game that we want to play personally. At least that's how I work. And I'm learning more and more over time that the thing that I necessarily want is not going. It's just not going to align with everybody. Like there's just not going to be ever. There are something like this information horizon thing, and the fact that have you been following the playfulness conversation that like Brett and I have been having? Um,
Not exactly, but I. Um,
well, the basic
if you can give
principle.
me a recap,
Yeah,
it'd
yeah,
be
yeah. The
cool.
basic idea is like when I play strategy games, I play very from the hip. I play kind of like quickly.
Uh-huh.
I am almost the furthest thing. I wouldn't say the furthest thing, but I'm quite far away from that like min maxing, probabilistic calculator type of player. I play and I play in a way that I think is the word play expresses, right? Like I'm playful when I play.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
but I don't know that there's a way I can force other players to do that. You know what I mean? Like that's like kind
Yeah,
of been one of my
we can't force it, but we can design for it,
yeah,
right?
that's true.
Um,
Suggest it.
just as we can, yeah. I mean, not just through our themes, but also in our system design as well. If the Info Horizon is a perfect example of that as well. So if I mean, Reshiv, I think their name was, gave the perfect example of it. When you're putting the Info Horizon in a way that calculation becomes impossible, you are suggesting, as you would say, please do not calculate here. Please be playful instead.
Right. Yeah, and
So we
you're
can design for it.
yeah. It's similar to how you design like one of those silent type tutorials or something. Like you're kind of like leading someone like, "Hey, look over here. Don't look over here. Look over here," you know? So in that
Yeah.
way it's kind of stagecraft. And I guess that's another thing is that I'm learning more and more is that games are you know, I guess I used to think of games as more like these little like magic circle, like perfect little machines, and you'd enter in and everyone would get like basically have the same experience, but it's more like going to, you know, it's more of a stagecrafty kind of almost like seeing an illusionist or, you know, a play. Even if it's highly systemic, you're still like there's so many like social things that are relied on by the players that we take for granted in classical games. But when you design a new game, you kind of have to like you almost have to like engineer your own new social uh, norms. Does that make sense?
hmm This is how you used to think about, or is this something
No, that's how I think
you
now. I think that
oh
now games
yeah,
are like a we're basically proposing a bunch of like
yeah.
social
I mean,
norms, right?
yeah. I wanted to say that. Yeah, this is, if this used to be a take and it's not anymore. I mean, what a shame, because that was a good take.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you.
So yeah, it's definitely. I definitely agree with your newer take, newer
Hmm.
vision on how you view games. Yeah, definitely. Like, we're not designing in isolation. We're designing in the human world on planet Earth in the year 2020, for example, and we're designing for these people. And as you said, we also design based on what we also like as designers and players. I think basically every designer designs for themselves to some degree, at least. And even though like I'm not exactly working on my dream game at the moment, yeah, the corporate will demand something else from me. But if I could be designing something, I'd definitely be doing something that I would enjoy myself as well.
So that's actually.
And
Oh, go on.
yeah, no, I was finished basically. Yeah.
Okay, well, that actually transitions really well into the next sort of topic that I want to talk about, which is CCGs, and one, why they're bad, and two, why you like. I believe that you feel like you could make one that's better, and I wonder how you would go about doing that.
Yeah, so I did make one that was better. Even though it's shut down, so I can't even really share it anymore. The
That's
servers are
sad. I
down.
hate that shit. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, it's okay. Um,
I also have a game. My first game was
we
also lost to the ether in a similar way. My roguelike 100 rogues. So I feel you very
uh,
much on that.
uh, thank you. I mean, yeah, the game wasn't making enough money, so we had to shut it down. But CCGs, I think, okay. Um, I talked about how the mental load and the complexity of the game exists on a meta level as well. And we should probably care about that meta level a lot, because it's how we introduce players to our game, it's how we teach them our game. And CCGs are pretty good at that, actually. They go like, okay, this game has a lot of components. It has a lot of systems. It has a lot of mechanics and mechanisms. There are like 200 cards in them, whatever. But at day one, you don't care about that. We're only going to give you 30 cards. you only have to play with these 30 cards. That sort of and you can curate those cards as well. So um, you can try to give the player at the beginning of the game the simpler cards, but also give them some um, cards that have emergence properties to them as well. And you can, and the player would go, "Oh wow! Like um, this game has some decent amount of depth in it, right?" And over time, because they're collectible games, their collection of cards will grow, and new combinations will emerge. And something pretty specific to CCGs is, since you're building a deck, building a deck is also limited to the cards you do have, and each player will have a different set of cards in the middle area. The middle area, I mean, not the beginning when we give them their starter cards, and not at the end when they have all the cards, but
Sure.
in that process, we don't know like what cards are they getting. Like if I have 100 out of the possible 200, I have 100 different cards than your 100. And the combination of cards that these give, the decks that I can build, will be different from the ones that you can build. And so each player will have a very, very unique experience. I mean, guides can exist, and guides usually exist for the very late game where people have all the cards. But the process to, well, I wouldn't say process, but the journey to going from having only a few cards to getting all of them will be a unique journey for every player. And it will be a journey that will be full of emergence properties as well. And I think that makes CCGs really good. Although you ask, why are they bad? And I answered the opposite
Well,
question,
hold
so
on.
sorry
Before you
about
answer
that.
that, before you
Uh,
answer the bad one, let me just bounce off what you just said about the term I've used for that kind of thing is incremental complexity, where something starts off small and you get this growing sort of,
but
you slowly are gaining more of the rule set, kind of.
yeah,
That
so the good thing about CCGs, besides being incrementally complex, is that they are incrementally complex and random. Like the increments are not predetermined,
right? Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
That's. I was gonna compare that actually to a toy. My favorite toy of all time. Have you know about Legos, right?
definitely,
Okay.
yeah.
So I think Legos are the best, and one of the reasons that I think Legos are the best is this thing that you're talking about, where I'm okay. I'm gonna like build a weird strange
Bicycle.
spaceship or a bicycle or whatever it is, and you start building it, and you don't really know what pieces you have or you don't have. You have some weird, especially if you've been playing with Legos for years, you have some weird collection of a bunch of pieces, and a lot of times what happens is it's like, oh shoot, I don't have a second thing for this other wing, so now I have to like redesign, right, based around the
Yeah,
actual things I have. That's why like they tried to make like digital Legos a bunch of times, and I was like, this is not going to be good, because part of why Legos are great is because of that physical limitation of I only have this random set of Legos. You know what I'm
yeah. I
saying?
mean, I definitely disagree with the statement that, I mean, in the absolute sense that limitations limitations create creativity, but it is true to some extent. Like limitations create unique situations, and unique situations will force you to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, both in the Lego example and the CCG example, you have that random incremental complexity phenomenon happening.
Right. Yeah. I mean, obviously, like if you look at something just like, I don't know, Photoshop or 3D Studio Max or something, these things don't have any limitations, and people are still, of course, perfectly capable of being, creative in those things. But it's a very different kind of mode of creativity. It's more of like a literally like a creation mode, which I think of as distinct from like a toy playing mode. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess to some extent. You'd have to go into more detail.
Well,
for that.
I mean, I think playing with Legos or playing with like toy-like, video games, it's a little bit more directed.
Oh yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Whereas like when you're
Yeah,
just creating,
Photoshop. Photoshop is basically just a canvas. Like
exactly,
it's a digital canvas. It's not
right,
even really a toy
exactly.
in that sense.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the distinction would be like toy, like I have my system of forms, but like really there's like you could say maybe if you wanted, there's like a fifth form which is just the like the canvas or the creation tool, I guess. Like a word
There's
processor.
also the simple, but yeah. um, quick plug
Well, we'll
in.
save the Simplay thing for next time. You should come back on and we
Yeah.
should talk about the Simplay. I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
Uh,
All
so
right.
yeah,
So
back to
CCGs.
CCGs.
Yeah. Why are they? I answered why I wanted to make one of them. Why I think they're good.
Yeah,
Another reason I think they're good is because um, I mean they are deep games. They comparatively, at least in the realm of video games.
yeah,
Um, compared to like a first-person shooter or a platformer or even strategy games, even like a real-time strategy game.
agreed,
CCGs are pretty. CCGs are relatively deeper than all of those.
agreed.
But another reason I wanted to make them is because I was saying like, okay, these are pretty deep, but all of the existing CCGs are bad, and that would like lead me right into the first question of why are CCGs bad. Um, the problem that I have, CCGs actually have like a lot of problems, but the biggest problem that I see is how the designers are designing in synergies and trying to force in certain emergent complexities into the game.
Okay.
It goes right back to the beginning of tonight's discussion that you should not be designing um, emergence directly. You should be designing for the possibility of it. And I think CCGs like actually have a pretty good base for designing emergence. I mean, designing for emergence. Um, but CCG designers, at the very least, seem to always, I don't know why, but they really love to design in synergies very directly. And as I said, that paradoxically destroys the emergence of the game. It crunches the play space. It says, okay, this combination will be objectively superior to playing other combinations. Or the other combinations are only viable under some very marginal situations. And the player very rarely hits those marginal situations, so they basically never design their decks around them and never play um, other combinations. And what you have is like a meta grows out, and then you have these top tier decks that are beating everyone else, and it's just
So
the
so
whole
let
play space is destroyed at the end.
so the first thing that you said in this whole conversation that like just rubbed me as wrong was that CCGs are a good base for emergence. Because I feel actually like at their base, like, and we can maybe disagree or discuss what is their
Right?
base. But it seems to me that they're not a very good base for emergence, and that's exactly why we have all these hard design synergies.
Um, I mean, emergence. We know as a matter of pretty much as a matter of fact that emergence relies on connections, and so like back to emergence in the real world, like a traffic jam is an emergent phenomenon. A single car will never create a traffic jam, but if you have like 200 cars going in, oh, now you have a certain flow of cars, and at the lights they stop, and I mean, we've all seen that, right?
Mhm.
Or other emergent properties like fluid dynamics. A single drop of water won't display the Coriolis effect, for example. But if you open your tap water in the sink, oh, now you're going to observe it. the water is going to spiral down clockwise. I think, I'm not sure.
Well,
And
in
yeah,
these examples that you're giving, okay, so these examples that you're giving, like the traffic jam and the water molecule or whatever, or the droplet, in these situations, there is a space where things interact with each other, things touch each other, they have like properties, right? And they, like a car, you know, like a car can sort of
yeah,
drive around a car, but it can't drive through another car, and you know, and there's a
it
road,
has to
and
stop. Yeah,
the road
yeah.
has
There's a
properties like
road. The
there's
road has different lanes.
exits,
Some
right?
lanes,
Exactly.
yeah,
And now that's all that stuff is what's missing from the base of
yeah. So
collectible card
the
game.
CC, I mean, so different card games have different CCGs have tried to like actually solve that problem. Yeah, the basic Hearthstone, Magic the Gathering CCG, or Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah, they have very limited space.
Mm-hmm.
They just have, okay, this is your hand, this is your deck, and this is the battlefield.
Right.
Mash the cards into each other until like they die.
Exactly.
um, but you can do interesting things. Like you don't have to design that way. You can design like what Duelist did or Faria did. Faria created a hexagonal grid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, like what we did, we created basically 3 zones between your hands. The battle we had a front row battlefield, we had a back line, and we even had like a shield zone, which is very uh, unashamedly stolen from Duel Masters. But we had like, yeah, 3 zones in between. And cards would do different things. What was the other? Oh, Gwent. Gwent also did like that three
Yeah.
zones thing.
Well, they started off with the 3 zones, and then they basically backed off. Like if you play the new version of Gwent, it's like it still has 2 zones, but they don't really mean anything. And it's basically just they just backed off to like becoming Magic the Gathering, Magic again. And like
Oh,
that's
that's really sad, you know.
well, it's
If they
sad, but
did that.
to me, it's like, yes, because this is the logical conclusion of a system that has to be able to accept thousands of cards, is that it can't have too much of a structure. You know, like if you have, that's my whole theory with CCGs is if you have a lot of structure, you can't have that many components. And if you have that many components, you can't have a lot of structure. The two things sort of like have an inherent fight with each other.
Well, at the very least, they'll have like an exponential effect on the cognitive load. So practically, you can't design both of them together. You're gonna design a mess at the end.
Hmm.
um, but I'd say that yeah, CCGs also have a problem of too many components. But again, you don't have to design 2,000 cards. You don't have to design 4-digit amounts of cards. You can design something that's a lot more reasonable that doesn't crunch the play space. So another reason that these problems in CCGs emerge is that so we had that designing in synergies problem, but there's another problem here as well that actually can occur, especially when you have too many components, is that there there, there can be emergence, and it can be emergence that you didn't directly design, it just happened. But this is the undesigned emergent combination is just so better than everything else that it again like crunches the play space.
Right.
And when you have too many components, the probability of that happening just keeps on increasing and increasing, and you will eventually hit a point where yeah, your game's going to get broken
Yeah.
by the players, especially in the age of the internet where strategies are shared, millions of players are playing games all the time. You can't contain what is in effect a hive mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Agreed.
that's yeah, that's But what I'm saying is CCGs don't have to have that many cards and components. That's a capitalism problem at
Yeah.
that point, actually.
Well, that's the whole other element of CCGs, which we haven't really talked about, which is the collection element, and how that feeds into everything else about them. The fact that they are to be collected, as opposed to you just get them all in the beginning. You own all of the cards. There's also something to be said here for that first point that you made in favor of CCGs, the incremental complexity kind of thing, where you're like, oh, now I just have 30
Yeah,
cards, blah blah blah. Now, like, it's the software can just do that. Like, you could, or even the rules could just say, if it's a tabletop game, like, you only use these cards for your first X games, and then you add in more cards. But it's like you always own all the cards. Like, it does nothing about it has to be this collectible kind of element, which to me is another, like, just if your game is actually collectible, I'm like, I don't know that you can, like, that's what I'm interested to see. I'm following Artifact and I'm following a couple other CCGs, and like I always will play them because I like the idea of there being one that was good. But fundamentally, I just like that the collectible element to me seems like I don't see how that can be gotten over. I mean, even with your idea of like, well, there's gonna be fewer cards. Well, but if the thing is collecting them, and then isn't fewer cards like kind of, isn't that kind of like bad for a collectible card game? If the, you know what I'm saying? Like the journey is
I
in
mean,
collecting them.
I talked about the journey earlier on, right?
Yeah.
So, and the collecting part is the middle part that's going to be the majority of your playtime.
Hmm.
Um, but why not stop the collectible part at some point? Like, okay, after, I don't know, say 6 months or 1 year, I don't know. It depends on how you want to design the user experience. Say after like 2 months, you finish the journey and now you have all the cards. Why can't we have a good game at that point?
Right. Yeah. All right. So we're almost out of time. I wanted to ask you to get to a couple of the comments actually.
Oh,
Ryan
okay.
points out that Artifact 2.0 is supposed to be whole collection for free, but I'm not sure on the progression details, or if they just give you all the front cards up front. But that might be interesting to follow. And then the other thing was the Crouch Mode asked for the opinion on the Keyforge model. Are you familiar with Keyforge?
I am not familiar actually.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I haven't played it either, to be honest. But I know that it's I believe it's like Richard Garriott designed it, and I think, or not Richard Garriott, Richard Garfield. And it's like it's randomly generated decks, so that Crouch Mode says it's permanently middle because there's never going to be like a situation where you've gotten all the cards or
And you
something.
can create like the best decks. Like, yeah.
Yeah, there is,
But
like, even if
I'm
there's a
I'm
net
saying
deck, it's
like
like,
yeah, so the net decking is definitely a problem in CCGs, and the net decking is basically saying, okay, these things are better than these other things, and um, but that's just a problem of game balancing. We also had this problem in MOBAs too, right? So there was a time in Dota that like there were a few heroes that were just better than everyone else. You had internet tiers of like the best heroes and the not good heroes and the horrible heroes, whatever. And but we also had times where legitimately like 70%, 80%, even 90% of the hero pool were viable and pickable. We can have that's good game balancing, and you can have that in a CCG too. But balancing requires like it requires work, and for it to be doable, you can't have like 2,000 cards competing with each other. Something's going to break down the line because we're just human.
yeah.
We have we have only so much capacity for balancing different components together.
Right. Yeah, well, I agree with that. I'm excited to see, what you do in the future in terms of working on CCGs and Yeah,
probably done working on CCG so good.
You're not gonna
And
do
it
another
was a
one?
really fun. It was a really fun experience designing Amazia, but at launch we had a really vibrant game, and uh, I mean there is a big like business problem here. We were slowly running low on revenue, and so we released an expansion pack. Guess what happened when we released the expansion pack? Oh no! Suddenly there were like the game's balance was thrown out of whack because I didn't have time to like balance 60 new cards into the game. And in the first week of releasing that expansion pack, we had broken combos. People were figuring out these like emergent combinations that I never even thought of, but totally killed the game. And there's definitely this tension about okay, how do I make a good game and how do I make money? And sometimes these two are in conflict
Yeah.
with each other, as is the case with CCGs. With a CCG, ideally, a good game should stop releasing cards from some point onwards. Ideally, they should never release newer cards. Um, but to make money, you need to always be releasing new cards.
And
And
to be fair to CCGs, like this is not just something that affects CCGs. I mean, if you're a game, let's say like I'm making Gem Wizards Tactics right now and I launch it, right? I mean, it's in my best probably financial interest to like, you know, maybe not for me because I'm kind of a weird indie, but for most, you know, game development studios, if they make a game and they like, I don't know, they patch it up and whatever, it's really in their best interest to like either make some new product they can sell, right? Like an expansion or just a
yeah,
new game
definitely.
rather than keep working on that game for years. But actually working on the game for years is what maybe the game requires to become really great. So the incentives or the you know the yeah, the incentives for the designer and the players are like just misaligned because of our basic economic system. So it's not just a CCG thing, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah. Well, but it definitely exists in CCGs without a
For
doubt,
sure.
for sure.
All right, well, Cyra, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank
There's
you,
definitely a
thank you
lot
for
more we
having
could talk
me.
about, but I'm gonna move on. We're gonna play some CHESSKETBALL next.
Yeah, I'll be in the comment section then.
Okay, thank you, and let's do this again and talk about sim plays next time.
Oh, thank you, for sure.
All right,
Good night.
see ya.
Goodbye, everyone.
All right, thank you so much, Cyra, for coming on the show. Next up, we're gonna have Brett Lowey. Everyone knows Brett Lowey. I'm gonna run me some tabletop simulator. I assume I can set up chess very quickly. I'm calling Brett now. Hello, Mr. Brett, is that you?
Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Tabletop simulator, were you saying? I just turned off the stream.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna run Tabletop Simulator.
Great.
And I'm gonna do chess in that. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Doing good.
Marcus made hopefully a joke that you gotta buy the chess DLC. That's gotta be a joke.
I think that'd be a joke, yeah.
Let's see. Multiplayer. Alright. Sure. So what's going on? How are you doing?
Doing good. I've been kind of like going down the rabbit hole of like Dungeons and Dragons origin stories and stuff, and like early RPGs and all that. And I don't know. Every I don't know 5 years or so, I kind of get back in like I remember the dream of RPGs and like try to
You mean
realize it
like
again.
tabletop RPGs, right?
Yeah.
Nice. That's cool. What are some observations that do you have any cool things you could share with us?
Well, yeah, sure. So one thing is like a thing that is a focus of a lot of tabletop RPGs, especially in the early days, was like stats and like how those feed into like action resolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like a fundamental question in those games is like, can I succeed at like doing this thing that I want to do, right?
Sure.
And so like pages and pages of rules and stats were created to like see whether you could do some kind of action, like pick a lock or whatever, or jump over a chasm, or
Right.
lift a portcullis or whatever. And so, but you really don't need that much. Like fundamentally, if you want to like do storytelling, like uh, you really just need like a couple descriptors of your characters of like situations in which this person would be skilled or whatever, or
Mhm.
like the base stats are kind of like a good example of that, like, or they're like an early sketch of that, like strength and charisma or whatever. Like you could do like a charisma check because it's like kind of a charismatic type encounter, so you might have like a better chance of succeeding at it. But what you don't need is like reams and reams of like more complicated details about like whether or
Yeah,
not you succeed at this thing,
for
because
sure.
at the end of the day, all you get out of it is like a binary yes or no, right?
Yeah.
So what a DM in particular really needs is like, okay, so what happens if they succeed and what happens if they fail? Like, so you need like stuff like how to raise the stakes narratively, or like how to like introduce like a new element to the story, or like what is a what it could be in like a dungeon room, like what like content generation type stuff.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, like fundamentally, like I've kind of started to break down it in my head in terms of like there's like the action resolution stuff, which like most old games were like focused on,
Mhm.
and then there's like narrative content generation stuff. So like what's in the dungeon, like what types of monsters are there, like what wilderness encounters might you come up against or whatever, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. And then the third thing is like twists or like narrative generation or whatever. It's like,
Mm.
okay, so like nothing seems to be happening in the game, so like how do we like make something happen?
Right.
And so early RPGs are like really focused on that first thing and like not so much on the second two things.
Mm.
And so
Well,
yeah,
as
uh,
Herbivore mentioned in the chat, the original D&D was a war game, right?
yeah,
Chainmail or something, I think,
that's
was
right.
the
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it was like it was like an expansion pack for chainmail. There were
I
like a
see.
couple pages at the back of the rule book that were like, "Hey, you could like do like fantasy like Tolkien battles in your chainmail games."
Yeah,
And then
so you know that right now I'm designing a Gem Wizards tabletop RPG, and what
yeah,
I found what you've all said, what you've just said resonates a lot with me. And a
mhm,
big thing is I think back to this. I used to play once in a while this game where you'd have like 6 or 7 people around a room, and you'd have one six-sided die, and
mhm,
it's like kind of like a party game, role-playing game, but
mhm,
it has some telling qualities to it, which is so you just take turns with the die, and you'd be like, I'm going to climb this tree that's next to me. Or like the DM would say like, oh, there's like a tree next to you, and blah 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 blah. You just like paint some picture of where you are, and then you'd be like, all right, climb the tree, and you roll a die. The DM says you need to roll like a 4 better to climb the tree, and then oh, I
yeah,
rolled a 1, and now the DM explains. So basically, it's just all improv plus a die. The die like
right,
basically is the seed for the improv, and you
yeah,
can do so much with that if you have like just a decently good improvisatory DM. I mean, that's the downside of it, is that it puts a lot more onus on the DM to like be able to generate stuff on the fly.
right,
But if you have that, I think it's because a lot of times, like at least when I play D&D, I've never like, I guess that's the other thing, is I've never been like, I'm super serious about D&D and like I'm gonna have this really serious campaign. And for me, it's always like something I would do socially. It's like a
yeah,
social hangout time. And
yeah,
so why does it need to be this extremely complicated, like, paradox strategy, grand strategy game? Why can't it just be like we all hang out and we tell funny, stupid jokes? You know what I mean?
right. Yeah, well, I have a couple things to say on that. Like, first of all, yeah, like there's a lot of people that are like not in for like doing a lot of like stats tracking and like min maxing and whatever strategy game type stuff,
Yeah.
but are totally in on like living the dream of like tabletop games of like telling a collaborative story or something like that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like totally. This, from a player perspective, like the systems should be very simple. Like you shouldn't really be thinking about them at all, I think.
Yeah.
Um, for the most part. Like you can think a little bit like my character has like this particular skill or whatever, and like therefore I'm gonna try to do things like that or whatever. But um yeah, that was the first thing. And then the second thing, yeah, like you said, you mentioned like the onus is like on the GM to like create things on the fly or whatever in like a setting like that.
Hmm.
And so yeah, like what I think like tabletop RPG books should be more devoted to is like helping that process. So
Yeah.
like when you're like have a like a blank canvas moment or whatever, uh and like you can't think of like how to move the story forward, like the game should have like tools like to like there's some RPGs that have like the system of like moves, later called like Power by the Apocalypse games, and like so like the DM will have like a list of like thematically appropriate moves that they can make, like that pushes the game forward, right? So it's not like the game's saying like, hello, like generate an interesting situation out of whole cloth. It's like, hey,
Right.
here's like a list of things that like you might help like move the story forward or whatever.
Sure,
You know?
sure. Yeah, no,
Um,
those are crucial, and that's kind of that's sort of what I'm doing right now.
mhm.
But yeah, that's cool. Do you have interest in making a tabletop role playing game yourself?
Kinda, yeah. Well, yeah, I
Cool.
kind of want to like explore this thing of like, what if you just devoted more times to like the things that matter and like kind of make it more fun for the DM to play,
Right.
and like how they can kind of like be surprised by the results of the random rolls and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it's more like prompted improv rather than just like, hey, GM, make your friends have fun like on the
Right.
fly, which is like
Exactly.
no way. It's way too hard.
Yeah.
Like you can either like you can like some people are like really gifted at that, right? But
True.
like for most people, you like either have to like do a whole bunch of prep beforehand to like have it all figured out, but then it like kind of takes the magic out of it while you're playing for the DM
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah.
It's like I kind of like know what the parameters of this are now or whatever. Or like it just kind of like there's like these awkward pauses when you're playing where it's like I don't know what is behind that rock. Hold on, let me like just ponder for a second
Right,
and
right, right,
you
right.
know.
Calculating. I mean,
Yeah.
I actually like uh I've thought about that, and I'm kind of like of the mind to say like we should allow that. Like
Mhm.
we should have like a maybe a formal like generating like calculating or like loading screen or something like that.
Yeah,
Like where the DM is allowed some time to think about what would be cool to do next.
totally.
That might be a cool norm to establish.
I totally agree. And then like during that norm, I think that there should be like more tools for them to like have a bit more fun or like
Yeah,
make it a little bit easier, like aid the process or whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and then the other thing that I just want to mention one more thing about it, which is like HP is like a kind of a symptom of this kind of thing, right? Like if you're talking about like a collaborative storytelling game, so if I like strike at the orc with my sword, whatever, and I like successfully hit it, right? The like narrative moving forward thing, like in a story, would be like the orc gets hurt, the orc gets killed, or whatever,
Yeah.
like some result, right? But the concept of HP or like D&D boxing, like you talk about a bunch, is like it's just kind of like a do over or like an undo of that like thing that happened. It's like okay, you hit the orc, and everything is the same,
Yeah.
but if you did it like more, then something might happen.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like instead of there being these like I'm not necessarily against hit points, but instead of just like, drain the hit point meter,
Hmm.
and it could be like honestly, like I would do more spatial things. Like okay, like
Hmm.
you knock them back, or like
Yeah.
they're pinned against the wall, or like, like things that are more narrative basically.
Yeah, you hurt his leg or something, or
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
your sword is caught in a blah blah blah, whatever. Like,
I
yeah,
also think
exactly.
I would prefer to not tell the player how many health. If you do use health, don't tell the
Yeah,
player how many health there are. Don't tell them how
sure.
much damage you did, even
Right.
if you can avoid it. And
Hmm.
just kind of like and I'm also like pro like cheating. Like I feel
Hmm.
like just like narratively, when would it be good that this orc dies? Like
Sure.
not like if it's boring now, just have him die, have him fall off a
Sure.
cliff.
Yep.
Like I'm very pro that kind of stuff. And
Hmm.
that's the other weird thing. Well, you brought up hit points. The players have hit points, and there's always this weird thing of like, well,
They
so are
can't
you gonna?
die.
Yeah, exactly. Are you really gonna kill these players?
Yeah.
But cool. Herbivore posted one of their attempts to fix the hit point problems. I'm gonna check that
Hmm.
out.
Sweet.
But let's play CHESSKETBALL one thing at a time
Great.
because
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I'm running
Yeah.
low on time, and I really want to check this out. And
So is there a
yes,
server that I should join or something, or
yes,
KB
there
Games?
KB
Yeah.
Games, KB Games. Yep, just like
Okay.
the old days.
Oh, sweet.
So do you have? Let me send you the link to the
Boom.
thingy. How do I do that? Share.
Guess that'll be great.
Maybe this
Yeah.
works.
No, I don't have it. Oh, there it is. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Okay.
Um.
Oh, I see the ball.
Yes. Oh. Oh yeah, you're in the game. Nice. Okay. Oh, I have to pick a side. Yeah. Color white, I guess. Yeah, that makes sense. Um. Okay,
Okay.
so let's read the rules real quick here. We can skip the lore. Well, let's read the lore part too.
Yeah,
Billions of years in the future, the world has changed dramatically. We still play chess, but now it's got a ball in it. CHESSKETBALL is a version of chess wherein the units kick around a ball trying to score a goal, but it's also a futuristic version of chess where most pieces need power to maintain their form. Kind of think like StarCraft pylons, right?
Yep.
So the game's played on 8x8 chessboard. Objective is to move the ball onto the opponent's back line, their backmost two rows, so the two rows that the units start on.
Okay.
There's one new component, the Electro Ball, for which you can use a coin or another similar token. Other than that, it uses all the normal chess pieces. When you start the game, each player chooses a color and takes all the pieces of that color, leaving them near the board in a supply, so we'll have to do that. Each player takes 2 pawns down to start, white at b7 and g7, black at b2 and g2. So basically like the corners that are 1-1 away from... Okay,
Like this?
Yep, perfect.
Okay.
Excellent. I hate that the white in this doesn't look very, like, it's like very dark. But anyways,
For sure.
Okay, what else? Okay, at all times there's a power zone, 2-tile radius around the ball. It's a diamond shape. Certain things can only be done inside or outside this area. Units that are inside this radius are considered powered. Okay, so players start with all of their pieces off to the side of the board. The supply on your turn, you take exactly 2 actions. First, move one of your units anywhere on the board using normal chess piece movement rules. So you just move a piece. Yep. Simple enough. And then also, in addition to that, you may either place a pawn anywhere outside the power zone or upgrade one powered unit. So if there's a pawn inside the radius, so upgrade. You can upgrade a pawn to any other unit you have in supply. Simply replace the pawn with another unit of your choice at the same location. If your pawn is powered, you can upgrade to any other piece. I think that's redundant. I just said that, right? Yeah.
Right. Yep.
If your pawn is unpowered, you may only upgrade to a knight. So that's one little mini rule that is something you just have to remember. Is if there's a pawn outside, you can always upgrade to a knight. It doesn't have to be inside the radius.
Okay.
If you move your piece onto the balls tile, this is just kicking the ball. If you move their piece onto the balls tile, first you kick it. You move the ball to any adjacent tile not occupied by an opponent's piece. Including tiles occupied by your own pieces. So
if I move this guy here, then I can move it here?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes, but if I was there, then you couldn't move it there. But if you had a guy there, here's what I'm about to explain, is like if this. Move it there, and then this could move to him, and then he can kick the ball as well. So he can move it to there or there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So actually, I think the one thing that we did wrong was when you move onto the thing, no, we did that right. Never mind. My bad. Okay. And then, so once you've moved the ball, which we just explained how you move the ball, then you update. If you have any non-pawns outside the power zone, you change them back into pawns. So basically, if you had like a rook and it was at the edge of the info horizon, and it would just revert to becoming a pawn again.
And presumably that doesn't happen for knights, I guess?
Right. Yes.
Right. Okay.
Knights are always powered. I'll just write that.
Right.
Cool. And then comboing, which we already talked about. That's just a emergent. Hey, look at this property of kicking. Is that so? The game design idea, is that you would have like some kind of maybe we need to allow you to kick diagonally or something for this to work. But the idea is if you had maybe this, that you could be like move here, and then this goes here, and then he can move it to there. Something like that.
Yeah. I think diagonal kicking sounds pretty cool.
But... Let's try diagonal kicking. I have a feeling that's a good idea.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. Cool. One question I have is, can a pawn move onto the ball like a chess take?
Let's say yes.
Okay. And then another question I have is can I take your pieces?
No, the pieces cannot capture each other. That I feel pretty. Well, we'll see.
I guess that's actor removal, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, so originally, the first version of this game was anything outside the information horizon got completely erased. But that felt too state removal to like destroy the whole state. So now, now the pawns stay. I would like there to be some kind of economy. Maybe you can capture each other's pieces. Actually, maybe that is a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I can place anywhere outside of the info horizon my piece.
Yeah.
Okay.
So first you move a piece.
Oh, do I go first or you go first?
Let's see. White
I
goes
guess I'm closer.
first.
Yeah, I guess I'm closer to the ball.
So the ball should be closer to white. No, the ball should be closer to you. So
Probably,
white goes first. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll move a piece, bloop.
Cool.
And I will bring in a piece as well.
Okay. Here, I'll grab this thing. Oh yeah. Okay. Well, what I'm gonna do is move this and play this. Let's say here.
Okay. I will move again, I guess.
Okay.
And play. Oh wait, no. What am I talking about? Undo. Move him here, and then is that where I upgrade? I'm forgetting now.
Yes.
Right, move or upgrade. Right, is that it?
I think it's move and then you move or upgrade.
Move and then summon or upgrade. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna upgrade this guy to a. Ov's a queen, I guess.
Right.
The pieces are definitely imba, but the idea is that like you have to choose when to use them, I guess.
Right. So let's see here. What I'm gonna do is move this guy here and then upgrade this to a knight.
Okay. So I will deploy a piece here and then move this piece here to move well, it will be there, and I'll go like, oh, well, you said diagonal movement, right?
Right.
Okay. Oh.
Ooh, dangers.
I don't know if.
Oh, I'm dead.
That might be dead.
Good game.
Good game. So I don't know. Yeah, this. What do you think so far?
Well, let me see. One thing is like it felt weird to me that I could summon anywhere outside the info horizon. That seems like a lot of different spaces.
Okay.
But I don't know. Maybe it's fine. We want to just play again and see.
Yeah. Let's give it one more shot.
Yeah.
So somebody asked, Ryan asked, can units move through units? No. Well, I mean, what's it called? Maybe we should make it that units can move through units, but for
I sort of feel like you should be able to capture. Yeah.
You think you should be able to capture? Yeah. Let's try it with capturing. I don't know if that makes a difference. I also think maybe that more spawns need to spawn down, like at the start of the game.
In that game, the game would have continued because then I could have taken your queen. But let's just play a new game with capturing maybe.
Okay, yeah, with capturing. Sure. So, do you want to start this one just to swap it up?
Sure. Okay. Let's see. I'll do this and then this, I suppose.
Okay. I will copy you and copy you some more.
Okay.
Brett lost because the next turn I was going to be able to move my queen onto the ball and then push it into the back line. The objective of the game is to move the ball to the back 2 lines, and that's another thing that might be a balance knob. Is maybe it shouldn't be two lines, maybe it should be just the back line.
Yeah, that's totally my bad. We should have played it out. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool.
Just to make it more obvious for people watching.
Yeah, I think that this is a game also, by the way, that there might be a very strong first turn advantage, and that could be something that would be mitigated a lot if only the back line, not the back 2 lines, was the goal. So that's something to look at. But anyways. Okay. I'll move. So I can move this guy and then I can upgrade him. So I'm going to do that.
Right, so now there's capturing, so this gets a little bit easier.
Yeah,
a little bit more interesting here. So I suppose what I'm going to do then is play this and then move or upgrade. So I guess I'm gonna
Marcus
play this
says,
here.
Marcus says, give it 1400 years, and I think this might become something good.
Nice. So I'm done. I placed
Okay.
this and then moved.
Moved him. Okay.
Some standard chess type stuff
Oh
here.
yeah. Yeah, it's definitely become more chess-like with the capturing. It changes a lot.
Then we gotta
all
remove
right.
this ball and just like, why don't we just start with all the units? And
Yeah, I mean, we don't talk about removing a ball. That's not. That's
That's true.
very.
That's anti-ball theory.
Yeah. So all right, I moved that guy, I deployed that guy, and I'm moving that guy. Your turn.
Okay. So, right. Yeah, the 8 around there. Yeah. I think I'm going to move this guy here. And then, yeah, I'm going to do this. Oh, no, I don't get to double move.
Right.
I can upgrade. Okay. So then I'll upgrade like, oh, so I'm not, wait, so no, sorry. It was like this. I'm going to, I think what I'm going to do is play this here and then upgrade this.
Okay.
This is feeling very chess-like now.
Yeah,
Like
that's
like...
it. I mean, yeah, that's like it really just kind of becomes chess now.
Right.
I feel
It's
like
we're like, here's, and it's like, this is one of the 4 middle spaces even. So it's like,
you know what's one thing that we could do though is
yeah.
because the king is the worst unit, we could have it just be that the king can capture only, or like the king and pawns can capture, and that's it.
Sure. Yeah, that's cool.
Something like that might be cool because
why don't we? Yeah, why don't we just play with that right now?
Okay.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
So
Because I've been
king
thinking
and
like what can we
pawns.
do with the king, because the king sucks so bad in this
Yeah,
game.
that sounds cool.
All right.
I like that.
Nice.
King
That sort
pawns
of
can capture.
fits for the king's theme as well.
I sort of have something that I want rules wise too, which is like, well, maybe it's too. Well, never mind. We'll just play it like this.
Okay. All right. So move and then upgrade. I will move you here. So we're saying kings and pawns can capture?
Right.
Okay. Right. So that horsey, I don't have to fear him, except as a kicker.
Right.
And then I'm going to upgrade. I'm going to try upgrade to this guy.
Okay. So I'm going to move my knight in here. And then header. And then I get to upgrade.
Nice.
Yeah,
Going around my line like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
And you're also going to kill my queen too with this. Revert her
right.
to.
Oh, sick!
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. Emergence.
Yeah, emergence.
Okay. And then what am I gonna do? I think I want a guy over here somewhere. Maybe like this. That seems kind of. Maybe like this.
Okay. All right. I think I'm gonna. Nope, can't do that. Well, we could do this. Move, and then bring in the king. Dun dun dun.
Oh boy.
It's happening.
Okay. So.
Look at this impenetrable line I have here of king and rook. No one can get past that, can they?
I've noticed it.
Originally, there was like a long kick move that you could do where you could move the ball 3 tiles only left or right. But I feel like that's too canned. So
go like that.
No, left or right only.
Oh, left or right, right.
Yeah.
Well,
the graphics in this tabletop simulator are pretty good, I must say.
Yeah, man.
HD.
I think I'm going to move my queen. No, that's not very good. You got your king there. See?
Yep. So like on the one hand, I'm like, oh, is this game gonna get too like jammy and like stuck? But then also the idea is if you have a bunch of units in a small area, you should be able to move the ball like really rapidly. And if you do move the ball really rapidly, it should unjam. See, that's the thing. That's why I think that some actors need to be removed when the ball gets moved, so that it like clears out things.
Right. Okay, I'm done.
Okay. All right. Let's see here.
Or another. Okay, so one thing I really want, I don't know if it like unbalances or whatever, but like one thing I really want to do as a player is to be able to use like either action for, like I get two, like Tiger Senior Freddy style. Like I get two actions and I can just use both of them for whatever I want.
In any order.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing.
It's like I can move. I can like double move. I can like double upgrade. I can like
Yep.
double summon. Whatever. Like,
Yeah.
One of each.
I think that's probably a good idea.
Okay. Why don't we try that for a little bit?
Okay. It's my turn.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. Double move then, huh?
It could be like wildly OP or something, but it sounds fun.
Yeah. No. It does sound good actually. Well, I could just actually, yeah. Let's do this. So I'm gonna kill this person.
Yep.
And I'm gonna kill this person.
Okay.
Boom! Huge. Oh no! Now you're in deep trouble.
Yes. Oh yeah. I guess the double move thing is. The capturing that's the problem.
Yeah, that might be a much.
Let's see, because if you can. Right, because like. I'm not sure. There's something here. Let's see here. I'm gonna move this guy into the information horizon.
I wish it was more of an information horizon, but it's like it sort of doesn't feel like one.
Yeah.
I think what might fix this game is just having it be that when you step on a ball, you can kick it 2 tiles in a direction rather than 1.
Yeah.
Because
that'll help.
Like it doesn't have like, I don't know. It's too, if units have to be literally adjacent, it's too like Marcus is saying, it moves too slow, and I agree.
Do you want to restarting with no capturing?
Sure.
And the two space thing that we're just talking about?
Let's do that.
Yeah. That seems better to me. So okay, so the rules are 2 space kick and bounce presumably, right?
Yeah, for sure. Bouncing is critical. That's kind of what passing is.
But like the bounce after you kick 2 spaces is also 2 spaces.
Yes.
So like I can go like boom.
Yeah,
I guess it
exactly.
could be like boom and then boom and then boom or something.
Exactly. Yep.
Cool. And then no capturing.
Ryan says, "What about bumping?" I mean, you're bumping the ball. That's what it is.
True.
That's why you add a ball, is because balls have bumping in them. That's what makes them balls.
So I guess. Oh yeah, I guess I'll go.
Ooh, Marcus has a cool idea. Check this out. Pass to own unit, but following the movement rules of the piece that kicked it.
Whoa.
Except that's not going to work actually, because rooks and
cool.
bishops. Rook could just win instantly. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's a cool idea, though. I mean, maybe that's some way that we can make knights powerful. Is that knights are like, everyone pushes 2 tiles in a direction except knights do the knight bump or something like that, you know? Maybe?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Let's see here. So are we saying I can do 2 of any action then? Because there's no capturing?
2 of any action, and there's no capturing. That's right, yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to summon and move.
Oh, Reshiv says, kick ball into enemy to bump them.
Very cool.
That is very cool. And actually, enemies could function the exact same way as the ball.
You could just kick enemies instead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
instead
that's
of capturing,
great.
actually.
Instead of capturing, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So kicking is the basic, the core mechanism, and
Right,
it's like
right.
2 tiles in any direction. And yeah. Okay. So let's
And
play
then
with
like
that.
emergently they'll downgrade when they leave the info horizon when you kick them out of there. So that's good.
Right. Yeah. Yes, that's really cool too. That you kick them out of the zone.
Right.
Okay. So you summoned a guy.
Yep. I'm done.
You only are doing one action, or you moved him as
I
well.
summoned a guy and moved him.
I see. Okay. Cool. I will copy you to the max. Your turn.
Okay. I'm going to. So you have 2 actions. I'm gonna go 1, 2, and then I'm gonna kick this 2
Ooh.
spaces. 1, 2.
Oh, we're doing diagonal 2 spaces?
Oh, do you want to just do orthogonal?
I think probably just orthogonal is good, yeah. Because diagonal is like more than 2 spaces,
And I
kind of.
can't header off. I can't header off your units, I guess.
No, you can't header off, but you could displace my unit. You could kick this unit to here. So let's
Yeah.
try that. So
If
you kick it to
with
there.
the ball, I
Yeah.
hit you with the ball.
That's the idea. Yeah.
I thought I was gonna kick you.
Well, you could do either. Both are in the game.
Okay.
Everything is bumpy.
Okay.
So do
I
you
don't know
want
where I
to?
want to kick this.
You kick it here and knock this guy wherever you want. You
Okay.
can knock him. Well, actually, it's the only spot that's free is here. So you could do that if you want.
I think I want to kick the ball here. That feels very soccer.
Okay. That's one action or 2?
That's both my actions. I moved twice. Boom, boom.
Okay. All right. So now I can't upgrade this pawn, which is kind of cool. I will summon a new pawn here. One thing I really do like the free spawning summon. It reminds me, it feels like Go or Shogi in that it's like a little more, I don't know, like loose or something.
Yep.
Okay, so
Certainly lots of options.
I will go there.
The action funnel is wide.
Yeah, and I mean it's like, well, that's the thing, is like it's. I hope that it can actually work as like an information horizon. I'm gonna spawn 2 guys.
Okay, so I'm gonna go here and upgrade.
Okay. Ooh. Oh wait, but he can't capture anymore. Oh no, that's a queen. Okay. Huh.
No
Herbivore
capturing in the
says
game whatsoever.
Herbivore
Only
says, just me, or does the board feel small? Yeah, maybe this will need to be played with a shogi board or something. But the whole idea was to play this with a chess board, I feel like, and chess units, you know? So.
This feels like a better direction for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Already.
All right, so I'm actually going to keep on spawning pawns. Pawn spawn begun over here.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, I have some like emergence that I'm gonna do now.
Uh-oh.
Sound good?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna go here. That's move 1.
Yep.
Second move is move queen here.
Yep.
Oh no, it's too far. Thought I was gonna be cool.
Oh, that would be cool.
But then I'm gonna kick here and then kick here.
Okay, that's also cool.
This downgrades.
That's right. That's super. I love that you like spend the queen on doing a move like that. You know.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. All right, so now I can upgrade these people if I wanted to, but I think I will move you, and I will
There
upgrade.
probably needs to be like some max of units, maybe.
Yeah, probably. Like, we could
even better would be like a downside for having a lot of units somehow, but whatever.
Yeah, I'm gonna upgrade you to the queen. I mean, the queen is the problem. The queen is sort of a problem in that, like, why would you ever not bring out the queen if the queen's not already out?
Yep.
Or so that would be another cool thing, is if like when a unit got downgraded, it goes to a different pool, and then you can't bring it back in until you've run out of all the other units or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just remove queen is another possibility. Yeah.
Boop boop.
Okay.
And then, so that's gonna kick it there.
Ah, spicy meatball, huh?
And then this guy's out of there.
Oh man, queen to the discard area.
Yeah, like what I'm imagining is like like some kind of like gem pile thing, like what's the gem pile game?
Puzzle
Puzzle
Strike?
Strike?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like where like if you have X units you get one move, if you have Y units you get two moves, you get
Oh, I see,
something
I
like that.
see. Yeah. My other design goal for this is like ideally that there's not a lot of like rules that people
Yeah,
have to
totally.
remember, so that it can be
I'm
just
with you.
like sort of like, oh, it's like this weird little chess variant that you can play with a quarter, you know?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so you could win next turn if we're playing
You
only
do nothing.
backline, right?
Right.
Okay, so yeah, you could win next turn unless I do something to stop this madness. Which I will do. So I can't. Oh, this is kind of interesting too. I can actually spawn a unit like
Actually, yeah, maybe you're
next.
dead. Yeah.
Hold on now. I don't know about that. Uh, no, because I can upgrade my pawn
Okay.
to like a rook or something.
Oh, that's true. True,
Yeah,
true.
and
Oh
then
yeah,
I
you
could.
can
Oh, I could do combo the sentry over here.
lots of
So
combos, yeah.
so you know what? But what I'm gonna do. So I could move it boop boop to boop, which is really cool. I could also boop it to you and displace you, which is also cool.
That's the one that I don't like.
You don't
That
love
seems
that?
weird. Yeah.
Okay, all right. That's just my bumping obsession, I guess. So we won't do that one then. I'll do boop boop and then boop.
I think it's because like
This guy downgrades.
that like it's sort of intuitive to me that like the actors bump things,
Yeah.
but it's like less intuitive to me that
No,
like,
I
the
agree,
ball.
and it's probably too random. It probably makes the possibility space just too massive, you know. And it's funny because like the idea with the information horizon was that supposed to be that like you just have this little like 9 tile spot that you're really supposed to pay attention to. But I don't know if that's actually working. So you're summoning a dude. I do think probably we'll have to remove a couple of pawns from the game at the start.
Okay.
That'd be another way to limit. Like if there was only 4 pawns or something, that's probably good. Okay.
Yeah, like maybe the rule is just that you only get 4 pawns in the game.
Yeah.
Period. I guess then if you like you could have 4 pawns and a queen, and there's a little bit of ambiguity about like so now if your queen gets downgraded, now you have 5 pawns emergently.
Right. I'm just upgrading both these guys. Your turn.
Okay. I'm gonna go here and then here, and then so I can kick.
Oh no.
Kick.
Nice. Nice. All my precious upgrades.
Kick. And the other thing that seems intuitive to me, but like probably game breaking, it definitely in this situation, like I don't think we should change it this game, but like I want to be able to like header on your units, but I just like can't control the direction.
Oh. Who would control? It just keeps going in the same direction?
Yeah, it just keeps going, yeah.
Ah. The problem with that is, so the thing that I'm worried about, well, no, I guess that's fine. Yeah. Because you could, yeah. Yeah. All right, so downgrade all the units. There's nothing to downgrade. Everything's pawns. All right. I will, what if you just put 8 guys on your back line? Oh, yeah. Maybe you shouldn't be allowed to put guys on the back line. Yeah, that probably makes sense. That maybe people should. Why would you be able to have people on the back line? Right? In fact, ooh, here's a cool idea. If we want to make the board bigger, here's what we do. That you have to bump it off the board on the back.
Sure.
That'd be cool.
That sounds fine. Yeah, the other rule proposition that I want to make is like not for this game again, but like, well, let's talk about it after the game.
Sure. It's my turn. I'll summon some dudes. That's what I've been known to. Oh, I ran out of pawns. Oh no. Wow.
Now what?
Now what?
Oh, you can't. Oh, you have to move. You can move.
I'll move. Yeah. Okay, your turn.
Okay, I'm gonna upgrade this.
But yeah, Ryan, that's a good question.
And then I'm gonna move
upgrade,
here.
Bump.
Kick here.
Oh, I don't like that. Oh, you've got me in a scary situation here. So now, but what I could.
Striker. You see my striker here?
Yeah. Good news is I can upgrade this guy. I'm gonna do it with a king just because no reason. Actually, it's probably a bad idea. I'm not gonna do that. King has no reason to exist, and I'm gonna move here. No striking. Your turn.
Move. Go!
Oh, I forgot about 2 moves. Oh, good job.
So thanks. Yeah. Okay. This is moving in a good direction, I think.
Yeah.
But so I want to say like one rule that I want is you can just have a maximum of 4 pawns on each side.
Yeah, so just remove what? How many are there? 4 from the game at the start. That's the best way to do that.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Right. And then like if you downgrade a unit and there's no pawns left, then it dies or something.
Oh, that's kind of it just goes to a discard.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Because like there's nothing. Like, what do you do? You know.
Yeah. What could you do? That's
But
true.
it's good because like it's a soft limit on like the max actors or whatever.
Yeah. I like that better than the crouch mode suggested team limit 6 total, but I feel like that's not as I think that what you proposed is a little bit more dynamic, I guess, because I do think that this game also, because of the fact that a lot of action only happens around the ball, and you may have several units elsewhere on the map that are not directly in conflict, but that are still meaningful and still exerting threat. So
and so do we want to try with bouncing off enemy heads but no direction control?
sure, yeah, that sounds good. Oro style.
Okay. Yep. Exactly. So your turn.
All right. Move. Spawn. Your turn.
Okay. Yeah. So you can move. Yeah, see, it's already like there's some things, I'm considering here.
Yeah.
I think
Maybe 6. Maybe 6 is good. I'm not sure.
no, I can't really afford to do that. I'm gonna play this. And then so if you kick it this way, so I'm gonna go like that maybe.
Okay. Oh, are we still doing the you can always upgrade to horsies outside of the
I really
Okay.
like that. That's a cute rule to me. It's like, because then like you could be like a horse player or something.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I'll move you here, I guess.
Okay.
Your turn.
Okay. I'm gonna. Yeah. What am I gonna do? Yeah, this is already way better, I think, with the 4 pawns.
Yeah, I agree.
Going to do thing. I have to kick it, basically. It's important that I kick it here. Or no, hold on. Hold the phone. I can do like this. No, I got problems.
Analysis paralysis. Oh, here we go.
I'm gonna take here.
Oh.
I'm gonna kick.
There.
I'm just gonna kick in that direction.
Okay.
No, this is working way better, I think. Yeah, it's narrowing the decision space enough.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, so I'm gonna put a pawn. Ooh. Oh no, that won't work. Well, let's see. I'm going to upgrade this guy to a queen.
Place and then upgrade.
What's that? Oh, and the pawn. When I upgrade, do I discard the pawn?
No, you get it back for like use. Like these are just like. These
oh, right. Okay, cool. Whoa.
And so then, well, I think I win. Oh no, I have to kick it off the board.
No, you win. I wasn't paying attention. Ah, fools.
Goal.
Undefeated CHESSKETBALLer.
Okay, cool. Do you have time? You gotta go or?
I should get going pretty soon. Yeah, but do you have any last thoughts on CHESSKETBALL?
CHESSKETBALL is love. CHESSKETBALL is life. Add-a-ball to
Best
every game.
game of all time. Yeah, improved on chess. It's the best.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I do think that these are really good rules. So basically, we have the 4 pawns. That's great.
Yeah.
The once you downgrade, if there's not a pawn there, you just lose the piece. That's a good, because I was looking for like how can we do a way that there's some actor removal.
And there's kind of a reason to like have only 3 pawns on the board, because it's like now I can downgrade
Right.
safely or whatever. Like there's just a cool tension in like there's lots of cool tensions there, right?
Yeah.
Rather than just like place pawns, like span pawns forever. So you got to be careful with your pawns.
Yeah, that's true. I did win the first one. Don't spread misinformation about me online, please.
Nice.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Brett, for doing this. Let's play some. Maybe we'll play some Dragon Bridge at some point soon.
Sounds good, man.
Alrighty.
Okay, we'll talk to you later.
All right. See ya. Well, this concludes today's episode of the Clockwork Game Dev Show. Thanks for hanging out with me and playing some CHESSKETBALL and talking about. We talked about Emergence, and then we experienced Emergence in real time, and we actually did some game design. Designing a game that could have theoretically some emergence. The probably one of the best rules is this Oro head bumping concept of like, bop bop boom. Although that might be too strong. So this game is going to be limited because it's going to be like, it's like anytime you take some existing artifact like chess or whatever it is, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna like make it blankety blank. I feel like it's always pretty limited in terms of how good it can be, but I think we made it a lot better. Yeah. Anyways, thanks for hanging out, and I will see you again next week. All right, and I'll see you, of course, in the Discord. Peace.